Peace to you and yours. Peace to you and yours. This is No the Ledge Radio / No the Ledge TV, and you are now rocking with the best. This is your host, Brother Blue, soon to be joined by my co-host for the evening, our brother, your brother, Ken Brisbon. With no further ado, let me open up the queue and bring our brother through.
Yo,
Peace, love,
yo,
and light to the God. Peace.
what's happening, bro? What it do?
Audio good?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you perfect.
I hear
Let's
you
just check
cool.
it out with the chat. What's good with the chat, y'all? Peace to the chat. Let me know if the audio is good.
Audio straight.
Audio is great. Visuals is wonderful, man. Your lightning is popping, God.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You look like you waiting to Ava DuVay is coming to see you or something.
Okay,
You
okay, cool. That's what's up.
know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Yeah, you look like they set your joint up for Ava DuVay.
Oh
You
man.
know,
All
she
right.
was coming to shoot a documentary with you or something.
Okay,
They put
cool. All right.
out on your face with the light and all that. Your shit.
Melody popping.
You know what I'm saying? A
Yeah, for
few
sure.
days in the crib would do for a nigga, boy. I tell you.
They got a glow.
Look, I was in the day and I'm online, so they got some millennials in there, copping heavy. Um,
Where's that?
I'm in Atlanta,
Yeah.
because they talking about curfews and stuff like that. They just kind of implemented some soft um city. So they talking about a curfew, not quite sure how it's necessarily enforced, but people were snatching their things up and going inside. So she's talking to another shorty online while they getting their stuff, and she like, "Girl, I always wanted, this is all I've been asking for was some time off. I ain't never had no extended period, and I got more done in the last few days than I pretty much done." She's like, I'm utilizing this time smart. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting things done that I ain't never had the time to get done. And I was listening to that and I was like, that's a beautiful thing. Like I said, there's always a right hand, left hand component at work. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't have faith in humanity. They've given up on humanity a long time ago, sometimes for obvious reasons. Um, but the human experience, it never ceases to amaze me in terms of, how they metamorph something. You throw something at them, or you throw them in a situation, especially under the energy spectrum of hip hop. Somebody always gonna figure out how to make a dance out of that shit, or a song, or something like. The improbable is always bound to happen. So there's a dichotomy always at play. You know what I'm saying? And because we in those days, it don't take long for whatever we say to become manifest in under 7 days. Like, that's just gonna be the standard for now. So it hit on both points this past week. It hit on both points of what we said last Tuesday on the show. We saw the first improbable hero come out of this, out of the vein of hip hop, tapping into the primal force and nature of man, which is partying, which is escapism by way of um, falling into something relatively familiar, which brings you back to a place in the memory. And music does that. So D Nice in his consistency with Club Quarantine on Instagram, for the family that's not familiar, the uh the brother D Nice, and for those of you who are not familiar, even with D Nice, he comes all the way back from BDP era. He was a DJ for Boogie Down Productions, and also an artist. Um, in his post DJ life, he has become a photographer and somewhat of an internet personality, and he also does celebrity sets with his DJing. So he does a lot of democratic functions, right? Spun for the Obamas and everything. You know, pretty much on that particular night scene in New York that kind of like caters, the Red Roosters and just those different circuits in New York that kind of cross section out cross they run into that particular demographic in that genre we might consider Democrats or the people in our hip hop demographic that kind of like champions for Democrats, i.e., the Jay-Z's and the John Legends of the world campaigning, what I'm saying, for Democrat candidates consistently. Case in point, tonight he's even doing a Bernie Sanders voter registration drive on his DJ platform or his Instagram, his IG platform. And then you had Big Fendi, right? And Fendi had him over on his page popping it, and the Cash App was slap slap. And he had that shit going consistently for a few days until they just shut him down and put him in Instagram jail. But he was able to tap into that particular algorithm, you know what I'm saying? And that also need and necessity to feed the primal urges of man. And they taking the shit that was happening on the street and in the back streets onto the internet now that everybody's home. So it's an interesting dynamic. Even to the point where the article came out yesterday, they said that there's new genres of porn emerging on the internet. It's called quarantine porn. It's a whole subgenre and it's booming. It didn't even take a week. It didn't even take a week.
What that look like?
I didn't deep dive for investigative purposes yet.
Quarantine.
But yeah, we will be investigating for the documentary.
I seen D Nice. First of all, what's up, everybody? Hopefully, you guys is good. And
I had a long ass monologue. My bad.
No, it's all good. What's up, y'all? You know what I mean? Hopefully, all is well wherever you at. I just before we even get into the chop, I just want to tell y'all, make sure I take advantage of this time. You might never ever get an opportunity like this again for a crisis to occur on a global level and you still have access to food. You might not be able to do the things you want to do, but you ain't gonna starve to death, at least not right now. You still got your
Amazon still delivering. You good?
Oh yeah. It's not a zombie apocalypse, not yet anyway. So take advantage of this time right now because you may never have this time to really indulge on yourself, like to really, really, really be selfish. With the market the way it is, you actually have bought some of your time back, right? You probably haven't had this kind of time since you was a kid, just ripping and running as an adult. So hopefully you taking advantage of this time because it's a fire time to be. It's actually it's an amazing time to be alive, yo.
That part is what I'm identifying the fact that people haven't experienced slowing down since kindergarten, if you will.
Childhood summers, yo.
Yeah, they went from kindergarten through the 12 years a slave, right from high school to college, some of them right into work. And they only got weekends and vacations. And they've never really got a chance to tap back into imagination or even have to rely upon the creative side of themselves to eat because people in situations now where they are segregated, isolated, and they're losing their way of life. You know what I'm saying? Like they're getting the phone calls, they're being let off and laid off and things of that nature. You know, some of them are being forced to consider a whole new reality, and that's going to spawn creativity.
So I seen D Nice get up to 150,000 live viewers.
Fact.
And I've been talking about online for a while, right? I called this. I said that the world would move where we're at, but I underestimated what that actually looked like. I was talking from an idealist perspective, but when it
Right.
actually happened, I was very shocked.
You've seen it
Uh, oh man, 150,000. I was in the chat with Michelle Obama,
in the
right?
chat with
Look,
Michelle Obama in the
look,
same room, technically.
we're in
Right.
the
Let's
same
put in
room.
perspective. We're in the same room.
Bar was in the chat. Dr. J was in the chat, right?
Dr. J.
Dr. J was in the chat. They had their phone in their hand just like I had my phone in their hand. And for one period of time, you was connected to a group of people you thought you would probably never rub shoulders with. They were right there in your same vicinity. That's because we are witnessing. I thought it happened before. I thought it was the and the analog before, but you are witnessing the full assimilation between the physical world and the cyber world. There is no separation. The world that you knew 2 months ago, it does not exist no more, and it will not come back. Right? When the coronavirus dies down, the world as we know it is still going to be the same as of today. This world, nothing is going to go back to analog. So what that means is it's a super opportunity for you and yours to be the mutants now, because in virtual reality there is no rules. You're not bound by physics. Okay, whatever the imagination can conceive, you can become quicker than before when people used to tell you thoughts are things. That was in an analog world where things move horizontally. In the cyber world and virtual reality, things move vertical, right? So the thought, you believing that the thoughts are things or practicing that, you would have a horizontal life. You still have a quality life, but now it's a 15 years of moves, 20 years of move. Now with vertical movement, you can make what would happen in 20 years happen in 3 years.
That's a fact.
Because the power of the imagination, because you just seen a person, D Nice, have 150,000 people at one time watch him. Before that occurred, I guarantee he created that in his imagination. What that was the concert of his life. He dreamt that first. That wasn't random. We're dealing with virtual reality. See, you can create anything you want on here. So he could have been online doing porn. He could have been online crying. He went to what he does and brought it to that space. So Michelle Obama there, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar there, Dr. J there, all those people there, he dreamt that first. We are in the time of your dreams hit quick because it's vertical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Blue and I, we wanted to touch on grace and favor tonight. We wanted to bring that back. Because grace and favor looks different now than when we touched on it 7 months ago. It's not the same. It's not the same.
It is not the same.
Add on to that.
I
said, you want to add on to that?
What, the aspect of it not being the same?
What do you think?
I mean, a lot of times that we speak, we jump the gun because when we're speaking about something, it doesn't quite have urgency. You know what I'm saying? So it's cloth for the people who are connoisseurs of cloth, you know what I'm saying, who could appreciate a gem for what it is. But at a particular time like this, there's more of a necessity for it. So I think that people will be able to register it on a deeper emotional level because it serves a different purpose. You know what I'm saying? It speaks to a different need. It fulfills a different urge of wanting to know. you know, it's gonna take a lot of grace and favor.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying, to gracefully transition through this. And you know, the way that I see people preparing for it, nobody's really like come to grips or terms that it may be a strenuous uphill struggle. You know, everybody kind of seems like they're gonna sprinkle stardust on it and do the I Dream of Genie. You feel me? And who am I to say that it ain't gonna be that? You feel me? It may very well be that simple, but because of who I am and the position that I'm in, I have to exhaust all possibilities. So I can't afford not to look at things for what they are or what the possibilities may be. And because of that, have preparatory move in place, you know, and ultimately I'm finding that's just it's gonna it makes me a better person. You know what I'm saying? It makes me more equipped for the inevitable and a lot more controlled, you know, in times of chaos. So grace and favor is something that we were discussing when grace and favor wasn't necessarily a necessity or primary topic. You know, we were talking about that in the quote unquote times of peace.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And, you know, because I have to exhaust all options and see things through because I have to plan for them, you know, the human condition, yo, your shit's spinning, so we see your shit, man.
Oh, them old things.
Yeah, it's just, you know,
Oh, them
you
old things.
the
Nah.
waves are choppy. Yeah, it's a lot of turbulence.
Okay.
The turbulence in that water. But
Hmm.
isolation is not a human characteristic. You know what I'm saying? That's not normal and natural to the human psyche to be separated and isolated. You know, so we're looking at a condition where people have never necessarily been without or deprived in this country. You know, we speak about the aspect of Americanism. Americanism is based on the Roman aesthetic of almost like glutton. You know what I'm saying? If you think about the traditional holidays that celebrate Americanism, it's about having more than enough. You ain't eating all that food in Thanksgiving. You ain't eating all that candy in Halloween. Sure, you can't eat all that goddamn chocolate for Valentine. You just ODing. You can't play with all them gifts for Christmas, right? There's an aesthetic about abundance and overindulgence. We're Americans. We can have it all. We can't be without. You know what I'm saying? And people are willing to come over here so they can have a piece as well, no matter what they got to sell to get it. This is America. You
Hmm.
feel me? Only in America can you go from homeless to a millionaire within a lifespan that encompasses 5 to 6 years. That's like you could do that. You could do that span over 30 times in one full lifespan. This is amazing over here. You could get it cracking.
Hmm.
You technically can make $1 million in 90 days right now if you halfway know what you're doing.
Hmm.
Because you can make $1 billion if you really know what you're doing. That's what
Hmm.
type of place this is, right? So, what happens when those same people who have been conditioned all of their lives, right, to share in this particular privilege? Because there's a privilege to be an American,
Hmm.
right? You've never been denied other than what you feel that the man is holding back for you. And technically, you got access to it. You know what I'm saying? You got access. It don't got a wall around the shit. You could get to it,
Hmm.
even if you got to do something strange to get a piece of change. You could technically get to it. It's all willing on what you willing to motherfucking, you know, exchange in exchange for that. But you can get to it.
Hmm.
But what happens when there's no access? What happens when things become somewhat ration to a degree where you have to practice discipline because nobody told you that you couldn't eat the whole bag of that or the whole pot of that. You know, we've never really seen that. You know what I'm saying? People even was able to depend on pantries and government cheese. right? No one technically had to all the way do without. You feel me? It never really got down to dirt sandwiches in the Americas.
Hmm.
So, what happens when you don't have access to electricity because the coronal mass ejections start kicking up because they said that the UV radiation coming from the sun this year is going to be 10x, right? What I've been saying, this is also dealing with the it coincides with the corona rising energy, the fact that the sun is going to be doing something totally different this year than it has ever done, preparing for an event horizon, almost a cataclysmic event on December 21st, 2020, when the great grand conjunction happens in Jupiter and Saturn conjunct in Aquarius, right? All of these are templates or signatures for cataclysmic change, planetary galactic cataclysmic change, the likes of which has been prophesied about December 21st, 2012, of which this is the same year, right? So seeing all of this take place, you know what I'm saying? If people are cut off from communication and the only thing that they have now is their level of sensibility, meaning their fives and their six senses, you know, where are you going to get information from? You know what I'm saying? The information is not available. It's not going around. Nobody around you was informed. Everybody's on the outs because they was relying on the internet or TV for information. But if you lose that line of communication, then what do you have to rely on but your ability to be able to communicate with yourself and listen to that voice in your head as your guiding light? And the only thing that you're gonna have left is your faith and belief in grace and favor. You know what I'm saying? God won't let it happen to me. I'm a child of God. I don't deserve this. I prayed too hard. I got too much going on, right? My plans for reset was too stellar. I dotted every motherfucking I and crossed every T. This can't happen to me, right? What level of grace and favor are the people going to have to be able to tap into, you know what I'm saying, at a time like this when there's so much uncertainty? Um, like I said, this is a wonderful, glorious time. You know what I'm saying?
Let's talk about it.
Very,
Let's talk about grace and favor of lit, right? So when we introduced it last year, like you said, it was a different time. So we have to rehash it and make it stick for right now. So to me, grace and favor. First, let's deal with grace. What is it to have grace in your life? And to have grace in your life means to be chosen. Grace is to be chosen. I'll give you an example of that. No matter where I'm at, somebody could come shooting. That bullet is not going to hit me. I always say, I've said arrogantly on Tough Talk that a cop is not going to kill me. I'm not. That's not part of my story. Um, why would I say something so arrogant that something that happens to others is not going to happen to me? Because I've always had grace, and I've had survivor's guilt with grace, to where I've tried to ruin my own life because of my grace, right? That no matter what's going on, I'm still going to manage to slide through the cracks, right? Grace is about being at the right place at the right time. I'm always at the right place at the right time. I'm always the spot where I need to meet someone, right? For the most part, when I'm operating in grace, I always attract the right people. When I'm operating on Ken shit, it's always a disaster. It's a disaster, bro. Always. When it's from grace, I mean some amazing people, and they always have this effect in my life, and the characteristics are the same in them. They just know how to receive a me, and the version that I get from them is not the version that they give off to the world. I get that. that can't be because of me, right? It's something else, right? It's something else. So grace is to be chosen. And what happens is we give up our grace for group identity. Now, like you said, Blue, it's unnatural to not be connected. It's unnatural to be alone and desolate, right? We need community. I agree. Uh, but those operating in grace should form a community, right? So I just told you that I've had survivor's guilt when it comes to grace. So I've given my grace up or attempted to give my grace up for a group identity, right? That was a huge mistake. I wanted the group to wrap their arms around my grace. I wanted to try to pass my grace on to others. And I adapted a we philosophy. Even though the people that I adapted the we philosophy with, they didn't show me anything worthy of the grace that I was giving up.
Facts.
Right? So it's important to be aware of who you are, right? And you usually get that from your parents when you're young. They put that in you of a strong confidence, and they teach you boundaries. But I had to learn that at a older age, right? I always say I was a sucker for friends and a sucker for relationships because I was just in a hurry to give this grace up. I didn't know what it was, but when I audit my life and I'll be like, yo, wow, all those moments that just could have went that way and it didn't. Why am I always good? No matter what, I'm always good. Okay, so that's grace. Grace is to be chosen. And if that's you, I don't think you should question that. I don't think you should feel sorry about that. I don't think you should become self-destructive because you find yourself glowing or receiving and operating different than everybody else. And when you look at your life, it pretty much been like that. And it's so easy to get survivor's guilt from it because, we come from an environment where we're like each one teach one. We have the same ancestral lineage, Jim Crow, black skin, melanin, the narrative. But that's a matrix too, though. This black thing, that's a matrix too. That has nothing. Skin does not give you grace and favor.
No.
Right? So that's not grace and favor. So grace is to be chosen. And one of the ways you're going to know if you have grace in your life, whether you want it or not, is your floor looks different. Let me explain what I'm saying. When I fall, the floor that I hit looks different than everybody else's. Right? My money problems and another person's money problems look different. Me being uncomfortable and someone else being uncomfortable, it looks different. This is how you know if you have grace. What does your floor look like? What does your rock bottom look like? My rock bottom is kind of like America, that even if you shave off the top, the quality of life you live is still a higher standard than the rest of the world. Right? So that's what grace is to me, is to be chosen. You have a different floor. You at the right place at the right time. And that's the last thing. You have an ability to do. Whether that's process information differently, whether that's a physical ability, singing, intelligence, you have an ability. Now, everybody doesn't have that, though. Now, people say everyone's born with gifts. I don't agree. Some people are just born.
Facts. I agree at this point. Some people are just born.
What do you think about that, Blue? Grace being a person's chosen. What does that look like? What you think about that?
I know people piece of shits, you know what I'm saying? And like you said, they be on the block, somebody come through with the chopper, knock everybody down, they the only one standing, they got bullet holes all through their clothes. Happened to them 5 or 6 times. They can't even explain it. You know what I'm saying? Somebody be like, man, you got somebody up there praying for you. Yeah, my nana says she was always praying for me. Every time she go to church, she pulling for me. You know, that person has a level of grace covering them. You know what I'm saying? Um, the term "no weapon formed against them shall prosper." And it's not by their own doing. You know what I'm saying? Because they put themselves in a lot of precarious situations that almost flirt with death, but never quite find themselves getting bit by it. You know what I'm saying? That person has grace. Um, whether they are boating time to come into their own personal selves, or they just their ticket ain't up yet. You know what I'm saying? Their time just ain't up, and they're able to exemplify, like you said, not only having grace but also having some sort of skill set or talent. You know, that kind of wants to be known, wants to come out, or they always have possession of it. You know what I'm saying? And it's
I,
almost like a trade-off.
I'll give you an example of grace and favor, Blue, and everybody can identify this. Say those that um, adhere to the Jewish faith. Their
Hmm.
religion is all about grace. It's
What you
all
mean?
about being chosen by God,
Good. Right,
chosen
right.
people, right? Um,
Very
they
much so.
have they have the characteristics that I was talking about of ability, being at the right place at the right. They just happen to be in Egypt, huh?
Hmm.
Right? They just happen to be on the Nile, right? They just happen to be where the highest level of civilization was, and they just happened to walk away with Egypt with mad gems,
Right, benefit to that degree.
right? They just happened. They could have been anywhere in Africa, right? They just happened to be here. I'm just according to the story,
Yes.
right? And their floor looks different, right? They're
Hmm.
associated with finances,
Right.
right?
Bank money.
This story is all about favor, and I think
Yeah. Who gets to deal with the money? I mean, that's a big responsibility.
totally. Um, I think hmm, I think you could change the trajectory of African American history if the people start injecting favor into the story. See, this is not favor when you say, you know what, no one has been hurt more than us. That's not favor. Okay. When you say when your past is pain, Jim Crow, school to prison pipeline, eugenics, the story associated with these 40 million people, 60 million people, these lost tribes of the West. The problem with it is there's no favor. Even Europeans that were developing America, their mindset was manifest destiny that deals with favor.
Hmm.
Blue, you seen that picture? You ever seen that manifest destiny? Is Lady Liberty, and
Hmm.
yeah, that's it. What they're saying is the gods are on their side when it comes to this move right here.
Fact.
That's favor. The African American has no favor in the story, and this is why in an analog space the people are going through it. In a virtual reality space, the people still going through it. So you
Hmm.
mean you don't even have favor in the virtual world? That's a bad look. You know what I'm saying? You need a story that entitles you to land, entitles you to a high standard of living, entitles you to legacy, right? You feel entitled to do those things. You feel entitled to be the boss. It's an insult to your pedigree and to your family crest for you not to live a higher standard than the rest of the people. That comes from your story. You have to have a story of grace. So, this is why filmmakers lie in movies. So the public will say, you know what? Noah wasn't that color. Jesus wasn't that color. Moses wasn't that color. But it's not about that. It's about creating a past with grace in it. because when you affect that past, which is in the future, but when you affect that past and when you put those characters in a certain image, it benefits the people right now. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. You have to put grace in your story somewhere.
Right.
Because it affects the way you live. It affects the way you think. You have what's the expectation? You know what I'm saying?
About, a floor, you have to have a ceiling, and I speak about that often, especially when we talk about the collectivism of blackness or the we, paradigm. What is the we end goal? You know what I'm saying? What does the we look like? Where are we going? That's important, especially if you task somebody with being a visionary. Where you want to go? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And when those things are not known and there's no collective vision, there's no end game, it just gets very random. You feel me? And what I look at when I look out and I see this particular story playing out, it's like people have been victimized by randomness. There's no directive. There's no vision. There's no, where's this shit headed? You know what I'm saying? To you have to be able, because you have to be able at certain periods and times, you have to be able to gauge if you have grace. You're supposed to be taking a grace litmus test. If we are the chosen people, how does it show up? What does it look like? You know what I'm saying? You know what it looks like in the modern day era? I got melanin magic, and therefore I'm not going to get coronavirus. That's what it looks like. So people identify I'm covered by the grace of melanin, right? My melanin popping. I got melanin magic. I ain't gonna get Rona. So
a few weeks ago, everyone was saying the black people couldn't get coronavirus.
Yeah.
Right? They weren't saying why they couldn't get it though. They just said black people couldn't get it.
Right.
Now, Pete. Now let me rewind that.
Spoke of grace. Like, let me strip that off.
They said black Americans said black people couldn't get this. Fine, cool. They never said why. They never said why. Now, if there was a why associated with that, then that would hit different. Why can't they get it? Black is not enough, especially within language. Like, what does that mean? I got melanin. What does that mean? Does melanin does it hit the same in the cyber age, or did melanin hit different in the bronze age? Does melanin hit different in the egalitarian society, or does it hit different in the industrial nation? When is melanin most effective? Right? Is melanin immune to virus? These are just questions that I'm asking. And and does melanin mean grace? Because the sun hits you differently doesn't mean grace, though. Right? Grace is being chosen. Does melanin make you chosen? If so, then you can't be oppressed. Because they can't coincide.
Can't coincide.
Right? Now, this is the thing. The reason why in the Old Testament, the Jews claim that their oppression came from them being disobedient. That's the only reason they went through what they went through, because of disobedience. African Americans, we never say why we went through slavery.
Correct. Yeah, we never copped to no disobedience.
Yeah, you never copped another. What was the crime? Because what the Jews are saying is, even though we disobeyed, even though we were stiff-necked people, even though we were rebellious people, we are still chosen by the Most High. That's what they're saying.
Right. We still got grace.
We still got grace because we're in control of the money.
Right.
So even though we were slaves in Babylon, slaves all over the world, we've been kicked out. We went through 400 years of slavery in Egypt. This is what they say. We are still at the top of the financial world. The African American needs a story, a better story. And a better story would lead to better outcomes, even in crisis. Because Jewish people, even in crisis right now, are still going to come out on top. Their standard of living is not going to change. The owners of the basketball teams will still own the basketball teams. The owners of the football teams will still own the football teams, the treasury, the bonds, the stocks, the financial wizards of the world. They're still going to be there, right? Because they have a story that is aligned or sewn together with grace. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It matters if you believe it. Doesn't matter what's true, what's not true. That doesn't matter, right? So you have grace, and now you have favor. What is favor, right? You have grace and favor. They're not compound words. We attach those words together. So grace is being chosen. What's favor? Favor is having the opportunity to grow. That's favor. Having the opportunity to expand, to grow, right? Some people never had a shot at anything. That means they have no favor, right? Someone tricked, let's just say the melanated man in America, the black man in America, the black woman in America, the black child. Someone tricked these people to thinking they didn't have an opportunity to grow. The mere fact that you can get a library card automatically propels you past people 200 years ago, people 1,000 years ago. Do you know why? Because someone that was living 1,000 years ago in, say, Rome or Britain or China, they did not have access to the emperor or king's mind. Right now, billionaires write books. And in those 500 pages, they put a lifetime of information in there. You didn't have access to that person back in the day. You could not think like an emperor. Marcus Aurelius has scriptures. He was an emperor of Rome. People back then couldn't soak up game like that. Right. That automatically gives you faith. I'm sorry?
It was not accessible.
No, it wasn't. Right? I really want people to really think that. So grace is to be chosen, right? Favor is having the opportunity to grow. I want everyone to really look inside of their life right now, the way that they're living their day to day, no matter what's going on. Your mom just died, your baby, your baby daddy, your wifey, no matter what's going on. You right now, do you have the opportunity to grow? Now, when I say grow, it's relative. Whatever is your thing that's important to you. Do you have an opportunity to scale that? Whether that's being a better mother. And when I say grow, I mean elevate, right? Are you a good mom? Do you want to elevate to a great mom? Do you have $1,000 and you want to grow to $100,000? You know, you have fitness goals. You want to get a six-pack, whatever it is. Do you have the opportunity to achieve that? And if the answer is yes, then you have favor, because space to grow is a blessing, yo. It's a blessing. You know how I know that it's a blessing? You know it's a blessing, boo. You from Brooklyn, bro. If you go back to your area where you grew up in, will you see guys that you went to high school with?
Holding up holding up the block, yeah.
Do they have an opportunity to grow?
In their present condition, you know how I might find them. They had the opportunity. We all had the same opportunity.
We all had the same opportunity. I agree.
To agree. When it comes to that level of access, I mean, we was told the same things. You know what I'm saying? The way that we was orientated in school and told the same things, how it resonated with us, and how we chose to go about getting it. That's what separate us. But they born in America. Like, come on now.
The the reason they had we were all the same is because we had the same thing. We had two things going for us. All of us was somebody's baby, and all of us had youth. So no matter how much money you had, what kind of life you were living, we were all had those same things in common. All of us was somebody's baby, and all of us had youth. So our starting points was the same, right? The trajectories changed though. Why did the trajectories change? And I feel like I have a understanding of why the trajectories changed. I think the trajectories changed by those who use language differently. Let's take we could always go to hip hop to teach us everything that we want to know. Let's say when like somebody like Jay-Z, right? From Reasonable Doubt all the way to 444, right?
Yes.
Jay-Z used particular language, bro. He wrote, he rapped a certain type of way. The rapping that he used, he put himself somewhere through language,
Okay.
right? DMX didn't talk like that.
Right. You had a different conversation. You had a different language,
Beanie Siegel didn't talk like that.
different conversation, a different language, different aggression, right? And his ceiling was different. So the outcome looks different.
Old Dirty Bastard didn't talk like that.
Whew. No,
Half a Mil didn't talk like that. Right? Now, the paper that we write raps on is no different than the timeline we use on social media.
Now, can you explain that? I understand what you mean, but can you illustrate that? What does that mean?
Totally. All right, so let's go with the paper that we write raps on. All right. So people think that the world, the whole planet was enlightened. That's not true. The majority of the public stays illiterate. Reading, that's upper echelon shit. Being able to break down dreams and read scribes and scrolls, that wasn't everybody didn't have access to that. You had to go to your wise man to break those kind of things down for you. The mere fact that you can write a prayer on a piece of paper, quote the prayer over and over and over again, commit it to memory, spit it out, let other people hear it, right? Go record this prayer when I'm talking about your rap song, your song, right? So you can be a dude in the projects with a hole in your sneakers, but on this paper though, you say, yo, I'm pulling up in the Bentley with 3 bitches,
Right.
right? You got a bus card, and in 3 years, you literally pull up to the projects in the Bentley with 3 bitches. Understand that that's never happened before, right? So hip hop music has solved more poverty than any magic that ever existed.
Can't wait. Fuck. Where's the bomb at? Shit. Boom. God damn.
Facts though, right? High school dropouts, you know what I'm saying? Employing families, right? Where else can a 21, 22, 23-year-old make $100,000 legally in one day? Right? It's all because of the fact that we're writing on white paper. And I'm not talking about race.
Right.
Talking about whiteness. Whiteness is always pure, right? Not white people. Let's get that clear. All right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, hold on. This would be the perfect time to segue. You know, rest in peace, rise in power to our elder. You know, incomparable Dr. Layla Africa.
Yeah, peace.
And like Rich said the other day in his address for the brother, we'll always remember him for his analogy of, all white things in nature being somewhat adverse to your health. You know what I'm saying? But we do also understand the dichotomy of it also being synonymous with purity. You know what I'm saying? And other than the white paper, it was the white snow. Those are the two things that put this instantaneous amount of bread in the melanated man's hand for him to do with it whatsoever he pleased. He didn't have no aspirations for it though. So we never saw anything.
So not only do you get to write on this white paper, you get to record the sound. And 1 million people played that sound at the same time, right? So you are a person that comes from generational poverty, right? Your mama was broke, your grandmama was broke, her grandma was broke, your entire bloodline, nobody ever touched no money. And now you're on a sound that 1 million people are playing at the same time, and they're reciting what you say, pulling up to the belly to the block with 3 bitches. That shit is going out to the atmosphere, yo. Right? Right? These are your prayers, right?
Locked to a frequency at that. You know what I'm saying? So it's not only an incantation, like you said, it's not only over a beat, but that beat is locked in at a BPM and it's at a particular pitch, it's at a frequency. You know what I'm saying? And now it's resonating. So it's living in the minds of other people, and they're dressing it up. They're giving your words flesh, right? They're fleshing it out in their mind and as a picture. That's flesh, right? If I see it, so it can be. So if I picture you pulling up, skirt.
The scriptures say, in the beginning was the word, right? And the word was with God, and the word became living flesh, right? So my words became a Bentley. Put it like this, yo. Every word that I ever wrote down came true. I talked about going to prison. I became an inmate. I talked about certain cars. I got them. It became living things. In the beginning was the word, sound, and the word was with God. Who is that? That's us, right? And the word became a living flesh. So that's your house, that's your baby, that's everything. Now, segue over to the timeline. Is it a coincidence that the timeline is white too? Now, again, for the pro-blacks, I'm not talking about white people. In fact, this is the reason why they call themselves white in language anyway, because the definition of white is incapable of immoral impurity. So they lump themselves under a concept.
No, a cover.
A cover, a grace.
Cover of grace, yeah.
Grace, yeah. Grace.
Word denotes grace. The word
Right.
is denotes, so you can get under the canopy, right? Of
right.
And you could do whatever you want underneath that canopy. Same way that somebody could put on a robe in a church as a priest, but underneath is a chest of the child molester. It's the same thing. That robe, that cover offers grace. So,
right. So you got this timeline. Now this timeline is blank. When we start our IG pages, Twitter pages, Facebook pages, this timeline is blank. And then we program our timeline based on the language that we use. And even when you sign out of your account, those words still exist in the cloud. So you didn't have to put a rap album out. You become a magician because you have a timeline too. Or just like the rapper has the pen and the pad, you
Right.
have a timeline. So on that timeline, when you vent about being disgruntled about the system, what do you get? More reasons to be disgruntled. When you talk about the fact that you hate your family or you screenshot in personal conversations, what you are doing is telling the cloud how to treat you. We know this is true because when we get online, our apps give us recommendations to what we want to see, right? So it be whole worlds going on online, and we have no clue about it because our algorithm tells us, you know what, we think based off what you program into us, you'll like this content right here. So over and over and over, you're feeding on yourself. You know what I'm saying? So that paper and that timeline operates the same. There are both places that you want to program grace in. Sean Carter programmed grace in his narrative. That's why his life looks the way it does. Now those there are people that say, you know what? That's Illuminati. Well, that's great then. Because to be illuminated. What's wrong with being illuminated? Right? What makes you illuminated? It's the way that you use language. I know that I'm in a low income area based on the sound. You can blindfold me and drop me off. I'm going to know exactly where I'm at by the way people use language. Right? Now track African American history. The highest moments of African American achievement, it coincides with the way they use language. Right? Malcolm X is revered. Why? Way he talks.
Language.
Right? When you read Frederick Douglass' biography, you're going to be blown away by how he uses language. Right? Booker T. Washington, same thing. How they use language. Right? They coincide with each other. And it's language that this is the way you get under the canopy, like you were saying. This is the way you get baptized into the frequency of grace. This is how people that claim Jewish ancestry did. If you're telling me that these people for real are from the Khazar people, is that what the narrative?
Yeah, Khazar.
Khazar, right? Mm-hmm. So the history that they're talking about is not even a history of their own, but yet it works for them. How is that possible? How is that possible? That means they are under the blanket of grace and other people are not. And to get past this season right now, we want to put ourselves under the umbrella of grace, right? And we want to have the opportunity to grow. How do you have the opportunity to grow? If you don't have it, can you have it? Sure. You got to change your mind, right? You have to feel entitled. That and I know that's a hard concept in the urban environment because we're all about being humble. We're all about humility. Be humble, be humble, be humble, be humble. But they never really tell you what being humble is, right? It's in the eye of the beholder what being humble is, right? But when you come from admitted generational trauma, generational curses, how humble you got to be? You already started from around the April, right? Those that claim Jew feel entitled. Those that have a mindset of manifest destiny feel entitled, right? The reason why white Americans, why they become police officers and firemen and why they join the military, they feel entitled to country.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? African Americans wear dashikis, but you don't really feel entitled to Africa because you would learn the language, right? So you would when you step foot on the soil, you're not going to have a language barrier, right? You would think of real estate in that area. You would think of setting up businesses. You don't feel entitled to Africa because when you go there, you go to the pyramids to sightsee like a tourist. right? You don't go there with the enterprising mind, right? You don't go there thinking, you know what, you're going to set up statues of your ancestry from over here over there. You go to Africa in awe and start crying. Oh, my home, my home. That's not entitlement. Entitlement means full scale occupation, right? You a cold motherfucker, you go over there and build a Jordan statue. Like, yeah, these are my deities. You build a statue of Mike Tyson.
Fact.
Right? Because Blue, isn't that the sign of occupation? When you go colonize somewhere, you start to build statues of the pedigree where you're from.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Look at that big Jesus in Brazil.
That's you know, they say what you came, you saw, you conquered in this sign. So these are yes, these are conquering outposts. You know what I'm saying? When you have finally dominated a place, you set up your heroes. You know.
Yeah. So yeah, man. What do you think? Let me ask you a question. For the person that is feeling like, you know what, man, I've never had a shot. People coming from sketchy backgrounds. How do you think they can get under the canopy of grace? What would you say is some steps that can be made
To get under the canopy of grace during this particular time and this
right
downtime?
now, right now, today?
It's gonna require imagination. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna require imagination. I was looking at a show. It was an economic forum. Like the dude, he had interviewed Kobe before. You might have sent me this clip. He was talking to two economic experts, and these two gentlemen were ex-military. So they were speaking very much like they was touting the company line, but he was throwing curveballs and asking them all kind of questions, right? So when you came into the studio, he got a picture of the Hulk and who else? It was Iron Man or something in the back. The Hulk and the Joker, right, on the back of the wall. And one of the gentlemen that came to sit down and do the interview with him, his last name was Parker. So before the dude started the interview, he said, I gotta ask this for my son. He was like, we talking about some serious topics, viruses, pandemics, and all that shit. That's cool. But my son seriously wants to know, are you related to Peter Parker? Now these military dudes, they there to give the propaganda and all of that, but son couldn't help but, you know what I'm saying, crack up. And I say that to say, you know, as the conversation went on, you know what I'm saying, and all of this shit sounds like it comes out of a movie. It's like because you gotta have imagination. You gotta almost be like childlike. You have to tap into that thing that no matter what is going on and what the odds are, you feel that your grace and favor has you chosen to survive it. Even if you got, the roof done collapse and you got a 300-pound beam on you, that undying vision that you have of being in whatever you got to catapult yourself through the future into whatever that vision is, whether it's the chauffeurless Maybach, you know what I'm saying, whether it's the all glass mansion on the top of the mountain, you feel me, whether it's inner earth, whether it's Mars, whatever your end game is, that you saying, yo, this shit is a go for broke world. I could have just about anything right about now in this changing, transforming world. I just have to be ready to know when that opening is and run for it. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able and willing to convince yourself of that now, because you're gonna have to prepare for something that's going to intensely be progressing for the next 20 years for you to get to this grand vision. And you know, we know enough to know that that's going to be a very few percentage of people are going to be able to actually break through like that.
This is an interesting thing about grace. So they say that I've heard some pro-black people say, you know what, if a black man marries a white woman or gets with a white woman, she won't understand his struggle. So he should be with a black woman because a black woman understands his struggle.
Yeah.
It's not grace. Now, it would sound better for the narrative and black women if people say a black man should be with a black woman because she understands his vision.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want to understand? I don't want to be with someone that understands my struggle, right? So this is what happens. Black man is with a black woman in high school that understands his struggle. He makes it in life, gets with a white woman that understands his vision. Now, that's not the black woman's fault that she is trained to understand the black man's struggle. That's the narrative that put her in that space that says you have to understand his struggle. Now, when you understand the struggle, you don't open up the lane for problem solving. And I'm not talking about the outliers. I'm talking about the majority. There's no grace in that because there's no entitlement there. Right? Now, I'm not telling brothers to do nothing. I'm just giving an example of grace. Grace, right? They always say what? If you want to move up in life or you want to make moves, you need white friends. That sounds so crazy. How come I need to get white friends if I want to move forward? White niggas is broke too. So what's the difference? Is it that if I say something out my mouth that is forward thinking, they might latch on to it quicker than if I would say this to a group of black males? I hope that's not the case, but that's what the narrative is suggesting.
I think that it's subconsciously, people might say out of their own mouth that they have grace and favor because those are liturgical terms that they were exposed to in church growing up, right? Because if a person is not rooted in any traditional system, like somebody pointed out the fact that, the Nation of Islam gives you the theology and the ideology that the black man is God. That gives you cover. That's grace and favor. And there's an end result to that, right? That'll stop you from caving in and breaking down. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, outside of that particular training, what else is there in quote unquote Black America that gives a melanated person grace and favor as a cover, right? So outside of religion per se, but you saying that you got grace and favor, but you don't have a concept of a black Jesus and you don't have a concept of a black heaven. So you really believe that the grace and favor lays with the people who are the blood relatives or the descendants, the direct descendants. Before you, it has to be them, right? So by proxy, because these are the people that you're seeing that are in control. So you want to have a white friend because you feel that they have grace and favor, right? And because the things that might be blocking you, they might be able to get it through because they have this cloak of privilege by way of their quote unquote white skin or their social status. That's what's really going on, right? In the relay of your mind in the subconscious realm, and that wheel is spinning. So, like, this is what I was talking about the other day. Like, there's a lot of shit that we wouldn't even see or be talking about if the active principle of who we say we are was actually that. our thing would be so further ahead that we would have the examples that we're talking about rather than speak about them hypothetically. Because you said, shit, I never seen them. And I said, I never did either. But we read about them in history, and we was told that we are the people that have the ability to unify and come together. And then there's something else that says, well, if we were those people, then that would have happened at this point in time because we've done just about everything else. So what cataclysm are we awaiting that suddenly is going to bring us together closer? Because not even Corona is necessarily doing that. You know what I'm saying?
You mentioned, and this is all dealing with grace and favor, and it's the people. We control the words. So if you wanted to hit different in your family and in your community, then you be the scientist conducting the experiment with the words. Okay. So you mentioned Dr. Leela Africa just passed, and the majority of people that I heard that talk don't talk like him. Right. The information that he had, if he was white, he would be Dr. Oz.
Oh, facts.
Right. Okay. So Dr. Leela Africa, Delbert Blair, Francis Cress Wilson, Khalid Muhammad, Dr. Sabi, the list goes on. Now, to me, they shouldn't have to ask, but it's a crime and a shame for those people if they don't die millionaires. Why would I say that? Because of the value that comes out of their mind. If I was to juxtapose those same people in a different space with a different shade of skin, then Francis Cress Wilson would be Abraham Hicks. Khalid Muhammad would be Alex Jones. Alex Jones got bread. Delbert Blair would be Bruce Lipton. Dr. Leela Africa would be Dr. Oz, right? Dr. Sabi would be Timothy Leary, right?
Gary No, right?
Yeah, or you know what I'm saying? Or Norman, you know. But what I'm saying is,
oh, Dr. Phil would be Norman Vincent Peale.
Most definitely. That was a good one. Bobby Hemmett would be what's his name? My man, damn, the Masonic philosopher.
Manly P. Hall.
Manly P. Hall.
Wow. Okay.
Manly P. Hall.
Honorable.
Right. So, but what I'm saying is, these people in these spaces had a way to scale.
Yeah.
Right. That's because the people don't operate in grace and favor. Even your master teachers are not the beneficiary of teaching you. Them teaching and showing up was pure will, but it's no benefit though. Nothing comes from it. There's not a good business model to be a conscious teacher, right? Like people haven't made it cool to be a conscious lecturer because you better have another way to make money because you're not gonna get rich off this.
Yeah, they haven't cracked the mold. They haven't Tony Starked it. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean? But that's sad because see, look.
Shout out to Billy Carson. He pulling up.
Yeah, but Billy Carson is just now fucking with niggas. Billy Carson was over there with Ancient Aliens and shit with them.
Hey,
no, which is cool. Go where you appreciate it. What I'm saying is, your grace and favor extends to your teachers. It extends to your mechanic. It extends to everyone that comes into your world. Because if I was to go into the Church of Scientology right now, my life would look different.
This is a fact.
That's a fact.
Just talk to somebody about it.
That's a fact, yo. And not for the worse, neither.
Nah.
That's a fact. So how come? So if I say right now that I want to teach black people, automatically my life should look different for the better. Money should never be an issue. Why? Because when you plug in grace and favor into the people, you're gonna make money off your book. You're gonna make money off your lecture because this group of people, this body of people operate with a certain standard. You feel me? If people admittedly say this is such a diss when we say this, yo, black people's money only stays in the hood for an hour. So you mean to tell me the standard of Jewish thinking is to keep their money with each other for a few days? That's grace and favor.
Fact. I mean, that's definitely understanding something about yourself that encompasses grace. That you like, yo, I value, right? Because with grace comes value. There's no way that you can have a respect, a concept, or idea of your grace and not have a level of respect and acknowledgement for somebody else's grace, and that brings value. And then that's create a pantheon of a value system for other people that you recognize in the community to have grace and favor. Um, I think like even with the shifters, we that kind of dynamic is built on that principle. You know, everybody for the most part respects what they see in one another, and that thing that they see in one another is grace and favor, and respect how another person extends that level of grace and favor to their audience. And then, you know what I'm saying? You like, yo, in public, I can acknowledge the fact that I acknowledge this person's grace and favor. You feel me? And that's important because you don't see that in this community, you know, or the shit definitely don't be real. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, if there was a lot more appreciation and understanding for the value of what that encompasses, right? And that involves believing the entire narrative, right? You got to believe the entire narrative of ultimately your people because you're an extension of that in self. And I think that that's where we fall short because there's not enough mirror reflection. When we look in the mirror, it's still kind of cloudy. The shit is not in HD. Like, ooh, that's what it looked like. Somebody like that had grace and favor, right? Because we can't even necessarily say that somebody like Malcolm had grace and favor. He got sentenced and his wife had a hard time. So how do you go from, you know, feeling like you're on top of the world and being embraced for your thoughts, your ideas, your conversation, your language? They're telling you that you speak so well and your words are so powerful. You go from that to being muted and not being heard. And people cannot even hear your cries, but they hear them gunshots. That's the last thing they heard. You know what I'm saying? So it puts a lot of things into the conflict zone, especially when you talk about people coming up in the line of wanting to teach their people, the people, the quote unquote people, and frontline and sacrifice for them. That's almost like putting your head on the chopping block.
You mentioned Malcolm. Both Malcolm X and Martin Luther King had grace and favor. They gave up their grace and favor.
Now talk about that.
Right? So say take Malcolm, right? So I just mentioned that grace was to be chosen, right? He
Yes.
looked like he was okay. The house that he was living in was provided by the nation. The protection was provided by the nation, right? He was an international celebrity. He was on TV. He was chosen by the nation. He was the tallest tree in the forest, right? Now, unfortunately, the things that we make oaths to, we have to still abide by the oath, even in times of chaos. So You better watch what you pledge allegiance to. Because if you go off script, that's treason. Now that means you got to stay aboard the ship even when it's rocky water, yo. And just because you have grace and favor doesn't mean you don't stick to code and follow protocol, right? You can't be no renegade hoe out here, right? You still have to operate within a certain thing. So Malcolm gave up his grace and favor when he chose 3D. He chose 3D, which is fine, but he chose,
What you mean by that? What's 3D?
He chose fantasy. He chose want to stick to his guns, right? He didn't choose reality. He chose fantasy.
Too much imagination?
No, not enough. No imagination at all. That was an emotional move to talk about Honorable Elijah Muhammad to the media. Just hindsight 2020, of course, right? The reason why I say that is because you can't be a crusader when you have a wife and children until you have life insurance policy, right? You can't all the way focus on your legend when you have other bodies around you because they're going to have to live and be here after you're dead, right? So sometimes in the death realm, we have to give up some of our convictions, and not for right now, not as a whole, for right now, right? For the big picture. The big picture is, you know what? Wait till your daughters are 18. Wait till your daughters are grown. You still can be a revolutionary at any time. Wait till your daughters are grown. He had daughters, right? Betty struggled. His bloodline struggled.
Poor Betty, yeah.
Right? But he had grace and favor, though. Martin Luther King also had grace and favor till he started wanting to talk about international shit. As long as he was a Negro minister, a Negro pastor, he had open line to the president. He had open line to the White House. But he stuck his nose where it don't belong. And it did not belong in what he was talking about. Because whether Martin Luther King knew it or not, the oppression of the third world is the reason why he's a Negro minister. First world problems. Still making 200,000 or better. Still had a quality life. He had more than one woman too.
A lot more.
Right. Martin Luther King didn't starve. He had a house. Right. Even in the Negroes' second class citizenship in America, it's still 70%, 60% higher than the global standard of living. Even with the pain and marginalization in America. That's how gravy America is. But Martin Luther King and Malcolm X both had grace and favor. We're emotionally connected to them. So the things that I'm saying is going to hit a certain type of way because we're emotionally connected. And we're always going to do that to people we like. But I'm not talking about like or dislike. I'm talking about grace and favor. As long as Malcolm X operated in the realm that he was chosen, he was good. As long as Martin Luther King operated in the realm that he was chosen, he was good. Right? They became renegades. And when you become renegade, you have to find a different God that's going to protect you under that right there.
And give you that cover.
To give you that cover, yo.
And when you pull the plug on the very thing that gave you cover.
Right.
Decisions have to be made. Like I said, you know, in a Shiite and Sunni war, how does Allah decide who gets the missile? They both was prostrating and praying the same time, same day. Somebody got clipped. Who makes that decision? Shit kind of crazy.
And just so I'm clear, I'm clear too. Just something I touched on before. The people do not come first before your people. Your people is those that are in the house. I want men in particular, not men and women, to understand this. You have we watched a lot of our mothers run to church and help out the church, cook for the church more than she did for her own children, more than she did for her own husband. That's backwards. We watch men go outside and try to be revolutionaries while his people in the house was not taken care of. That's not gangster. It's not gangster to die for black people before you hold down your lady or your women, your children. You can't give up that part of you right there. That's terrible legacy. Yeah, strangers are gonna love you, but if your children suffer, that's a terrible exchange. And now what you're doing, and then you're also not passing any grace and favor over to your seeds, because they are gonna, while strangers are revering your name, your children are living with an absent father. The best ability is availability,
Mm.
right?
Uh,
So this grace. What you say, bro?
the best ability is availability.
Availability,
That's crazy.
right? So now again, Malcolm and Martin in 2020 is the shit. We're only talking about grace and favor. And now when we have discussions too, you know what, I heard A Rashid say this, and it always stuck with me. You guys had him on Know the Ledge one time, and he was talking about black people as a whole in America don't have a reading history of 150 years. And I thought that was profound, because what that deals with is abstract thinking, right? The ability to think abstract. And the reason why we have cancel culture is because we have emotions connected to words, right? And we don't talk conceptually, right? So some people in the chat, I don't know, I can't see it, they're probably mad at what I'm saying about Malcolm and Martin, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about a conversation of grace and favor, which is separate from them as a whole. This is a different thing. So we have to view the world through concepts. Grace and favor is a concept, right? And I could go down the line of, I'll give you another example. This is I like to give examples of people that that had a connection in my life. So let's take Allen Iverson, right? Allen Iverson was my favorite player. With my eyes, that's the best basketball player I see. That's my opinion. But he gave up his grace and favor when he was having conversations about practice. Now check it out. When I was young and I heard him said this, I was like, hell yeah, because I was rebellious. And I was like, yeah, man, hell yeah, fuck that, man. Practice, what's practice? Now we know now the thing that makes you legendary is what you do when the camera's not turned on, right? And he was a talented basketball player, so he didn't have to work as hard as someone else. Now that affected him when he became 31, 32, 33. He shaved off years of his career because of his unwillingness to practice hard. Not just that, he also chose the streets over his legacy with the game of basketball, because he didn't want to put on a suit. He can have an executive position. He's a legend. Fact. Now the people say he shouldn't have to. You're right. He shouldn't. But that's the game that we play. Right? Now, legacy is legacy. You at some point your legacy has to live in the minds of the people. So after my generation goes, then his legacy kind of fades to black a little bit, because he is not in the front office having a grip on the players that are coming in right now, because his unwillingness to. Now he give up his grace and favor and isolates himself for players that he used to shit on. He used to shit on players on the court, and those players have a deeper connection in the league than him right now. They're executives, yo. They're coaches. They're global ambassadors for the game. Yeah, he still got his name, which is dope. But I'm talking about grace and favor. I'm talking about grace and favor. I give you another example. Kobe Bryant, 10 years ago, people didn't like Kobe like that, yo, outside of LA, yo. People thought he was arrogant. People thought he was a prick. People thought he was a dick, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he was reclusive as a player. He didn't fuck with a lot of people. So the grace and favor that he was missing as a player in terms of the hearts and minds of the people, he got that back in the last 3 years.
It's a fact.
So people know him more as a husband and a father than they do as a basketball player. The mere fact that he had his tragedy with his daughter upgrades him as a family man. He replaced Bill Cosby.
Ooh. America's dad.
Right?
Yeah.
Kobe's a real father, not an actor father.
Not a girl. Yeah, he's a global girl dad, not even American dad.
That's grace and favor.
Yeah.
Right? So you see that grace and favor can be dropped and it can be picked up. It can be dropped, it can be picked up. D Nice just got grace and favor. D Nice went from 200,000 followers to 1.3 million followers the last time I checked in 2 days.
Right.
Right? Because he put music in people's lives during a crisis. His life from last week to the time he dies will forever be different. Now he been in the industry 20 years, man.
Maybe more than that.
More than that, bro.
He been around for a
long time.
Just popped where
he just popped.
Yeah.
He just popped, fam.
In a crisis.
You know what I'm saying?
Most improbable. Like you said, the heroes are going to come from places least expected. You know, we just seen it.
Man, you know what I'm saying? So grace and favor can be dropped again. It's a concept.
Boosie got hood grace and favor. Then he got hood grace and favor. It's going down, you know. It's going to come from different places.
But look. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, for example, you said Boosie, right? Yeah. So Boosie makes comments, he made his comments about Dwayne Wade's son. Now, the people, when you have people that say what you guys really say in the barbershop, are you willing to ride for them? If he goes broke, are you willing to get this person back up to where they was? Because he spoke out for you now, right? He's talking about a group of people that have resources, right? Now, if you want your people to go out on a limb for you, is there grace and favor associated with what they're doing? Or are you going to leave them hanging? That's a real question. Because if he was to side with the trans community, oh my God, there's a lot of grace and favor with that shit. I'm just saying. People need perks. People need perks. Unfortunately, siding with Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, it's dope and it's emotionally dope. What's the perks though?
His grace and favor gonna come from the fact that he has shorties twerking and showing their titties on IG during the quarantine, my nigga. Like his grace and favor come by way of ratchetness. He got a different grace and favor.
True that.
And you know,
True that.
shit, yeah, trap God different.
Oh, you know what? And you know what? That's a good point. Now, if your grace and favor is aligned with ratchetness, there is perks.
Yeah.
Perks. It's the middle part. It's the black intellectual where shit is kind of blurry. Niggas ain't fucking with you like that. But with the ratchet crowd, oh yeah, if he go to jail right now, all the shorties going to jail, visiting him, he gonna get letters. He gonna get letters from all the hood girls.
Yeah, his grace and favor and the people's love and support of him based on his covering.
True
right?
That.
He has ratchet covering. He's a trill baby. Got him out off a death row the first time.
True that.
His grace and favor is legendary. I mean, it comes from the vein of a Kodak Black comes from the vein of a Boosie, should I say? But he destroyed his grace and favor. That's that hood magic. That's that melanin magic. That ratchet melanin magic shit that's got heavy salt on it. It changes the whole melanin cube. Yeah, your grace and favor be different. When your shit be salt and sugared up, DJ SNS stuff, and people put that love on you, your shit be different, right? It's like your uncle that drink whiskey and smoke cigarettes and he's 103. If he stopped for one day, he's out of here, right?
right.
Favor.
True that.
He's being held up by tobacco guards.
True that. True that.
Right? Yeah, so it's just not a puritanical concept. Like this shit, it goes, like I said, it's in the vein of that love, of that cover. Like the devil take care of his starting five. Them niggas be popping. His lineup is you know what I'm saying? They put in time. You know, they've been around for a minute. They pimp hand is strong out here. How you take care of his, man? You dig what I'm saying? Shit.
Yeah, true that. Yeah. It's levels. It's levels. It's levels. You have corporate grace and favor. You have ratchet grace and favor. You got game grace and favor. I'm under game grace and favor. That's my covering, the game.
Yo, I was looking at Trump earlier, right? Try to catch all of the the press conferences. The shit is just hilarious to me, right? So today it's like, yo, I'm just positive and optimistic. Cause they like, yo, you know, how you gonna say that this shit gonna bounce back by Easter? You like, I don't have no other outlook but positive shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I can't see it no other way than that.
He said by Easter, yo, he's trying to get this shit up and running.
He said, I need churches to be full, right? I mean, that's law 44. He going with Christ consciousness stuff, but I God damn, why my phone going off like this?
Trap booming.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah, it I mean, how was, you know what I'm saying? Like, son is like, yo, it's necessary that I tap into this level of grace and favor, or, I can't ever not see myself covered. And that's how he constantly, consistently pushes through this.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
Mm-hmm. So the words of Norman Vincent Peale, the art of positive thinking, that's another form of grace and favor. That form of grace and favor is about the reticular activating system. That is about mentalism, right? That is about philosophy. Huh?
Yeah, that's a term that you were using real heavy, you know, in the first few episodes. But we got some new viewers. Can you walk them through reticular?
Yeah, totally. The reticular activating system is a spot in the brain, and what it does is it blocks out new information, right? It blocks out new experiences. So it's like a projector, and it only gives you the experiences that you're thinking about, right? You can only see certain things. Yo, have you ever been in a place for a minute and looked over maybe across the street or somewhere in that area and seen a tree and you like, yo, when the hell that always been there, right? You just was not open to peeping it because whatever the projector that's going on in your mind, you're playing the same movie over and over again, over and over again. You know how there's some women that be like, yo, how do I keep dating the same man over and over again? How's that possible? Is because this projector got you like this. So the thing is, you have to retrain the reticular activating system. That just if everybody closed their eyes for a second and just imagine that your thoughts was going right on the wall in your room like a projector. What are the thoughts that are coming out of your mind now? Being that Black people in America are not individuals, but we're this 40 million people collective. There is a collective reticular activating system consciousness of 40 million people. We all think we have the same experience. When we talk about the Black experience in America, it's one story, not many stories, one story. It's lynching, it's Jim Crow, it's slavery, it's welfare, it's crack. It's a story of a people catching L's. That's the reticular activating system, and it's so deep in the Black American History Museum here in Washington D.C., which is an upside down pyramid. But that's another story. There is no site of Reginald Lewis in the Black American History Museum.
But
Right? The Black American History Museum is all about slavery, all the way to Barack Obama. That's the story, right? But there are certain names that are missing for a reason, because if those names are put into the story, then this is how you form grace, and grace is going to be projected right on that wall, and you're going to be able to see. So if I will walk into a Jewish projecting room, I'm sure that it's them diving in gold, right? Them building stadiums. This is how their collective reticular activating system works. The collective reticular activating system for Black people is getting beat down by police. That's the collective ideal. You know how I know it's the collective ideal? Is because Van Jones be on TV crying, talking about, I gotta explain to my son about being stopped by the police and right? I've heard Black people say this, yeah, I gotta have the conversation with my son. So a person from Tampa and a person from Oakland that never met each other, but they're going about their life the same way based on the Black app, right? So that's the reticular activating system. It's a filter, and you want to change the filter, right? Just like you got a filter in your house that catches debris, that catches dust. Eventually, you got to take that filter out and put some new one in, right? So your filter is catching thoughts. What kind of thoughts? What kind of thoughts? I remember I said on Facebook last year, Black men, you're not at war. You should have seen my thread. I got called a coon so many times, nigga. You're a coon because I said you're not at war. They were fighting me to tell me they're at war. And I'm like, if you're at war, how do you have time to convince me? You at war, my nigga. Like, what's the conversation about? And the thing, I'm talking Black men in particular, the person that messes up the Black man's reticular activating system is the Black woman. She babies Black men too much. She doesn't challenge Black men too much. She don't challenge them. The Black woman's way of challenging a Black man is through being petty and being jealous. I'm talking about challenge him having an expectation that he's better than white people. I'm not talking about his cock. I'm talking about his grace. He's better than Asian men because of his philosophy and his thinking, not because of his swag. Right? The white woman trusts the white mind, white male mind. She doesn't like his policies all the time, but she knows collectively they know the white male can get shit done. They know that. He might got a micro peen and can't bang that fur burger out the way that they want to. They'll go to niggas for that. Right?
They damn sure do, yeah.
Right.
That.
They respect the mind. So when I say the black women fuck up black man's reticular activating system is because the black woman will be front line fighting the black man's battles. You got to get out that nigga's way. Yeah. It's man on man. It's white man putting his foot on the black man's head. That means black women move the fuck out the way and let this nigga win or lose. Why are you standing in the? Who the fuck is gonna be with the kids if he die and go to jail? You're messing up the collective legacy. Why are we front line, shoulder to shoulder against one man? That says a lot. So me and the women gotta fight the white male. So is this nigga a human or he has extraterrestrial support? Or does he have grace? No. That's a real thing, right? You have to allow these guys to go on the hero's journey. They lose. At least they fought. At least they went. At least you're robbing them. Right. What'd you say, bro?
Gave it their all. Gave you something to sing about.
You know, just what that'll do is it'll put confidence in the children.
Facts. To revenge their fathers and win those battles. Do better than he did, but at least he fought.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying though, like I don't want to get in a black woman's way of being a mother. A lot of women find their hero's journey in raising children. Not saying that's their only role, but some women like that, right? Who am I to stand in her way as a mother? I don't want to do that. I want to add. But when it's time for her to do something with her children, I need to move the fuck out the way. That's between her and her cubs. And I got a hero's journey, right? That I need for my confidence. Now you can make suggestions. You can even give me input, but you can't go with me though. That's for me. That's mine, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because white women didn't go with Leonidas, yo. She stayed home. She you know what? Matter of fact, she even gave up some pussy to try to get some shit passed in Congress. So she was doing her little shit to make shit crack. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. We all have a role to play, okay? But I'm just saying though, like those 300, they went, right? The women didn't go, right? So I'm talking about grace and favor, right? So now black men also do the same thing for black women, to black women. You take black women's grace and favor away when you make songs like long hair don't care. You already know there's something in the psyche of black women regarding hair. We know this. So let's stop acting funny. We know this, right? And when you make songs like long hair don't care, what you're doing is, you can have whatever preference you want, but what you're doing is you're saying, this is the look that we like, right? Now, if you like women with hair, and what you do is you create infrastructure so black women could come up in that infrastructure and they can look how they want to look. But if black women are forced to work outside in territory that they're not they don't have good representation, they have to look like the market. So if you don't like makeup, if you don't like black women wearing weave, if you don't like the ass shots, if that shit is going to help them financially provide for their children, of course they're going to do it, because the black man has no grace and no favor and has not built infrastructure for the black woman to look how you would like her to look. White women can look any way. Why? White men have built infrastructure. White women don't have to go among black people to find a job. This is all about grace and favor and entitlement. Yo, I be driving down the street, Blue, and white people be walking across the street hella slow. Like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I got the right of way, right? They walk across the street, even it being poor, still got the mindset of what? This is my country, yo.
Hey,
teaching.
Yeah.
That's a teaching. And what I'm saying is that same teaching and belief system that they have, and we know the biology of belief. We know that. We've been talking about that for a minute now. The same way they view themselves, the same way their reticular activating system is programmed, black people can do the same exact thing and do it in a efficient manner and upgrade vertically using the internet. The images that black people are putting on the internet about themselves is trash.
Facto.
You're creating a permanent underclass in virtual reality. Right? This is about having grace and favor. So you begin to change the grace and favor, the frequency, when you start using language different, when you start to see yourself different, right? When you start programming that reticular activating system to hit differently. What is it that you think about yourself, right? Now it's interesting because we're kings and queens and victims at the same time. You can't be a victim king or a queen. Like, you can't do that both. Are you the original man? Are you a king? Are you a queen? If so, then you can't be oppressed. You can't be an oppressed king. Which one is it?
Which one is it?
Are you the children of the Most High?
That's
if you have a God and you're oppressed, what the fuck is the purpose of God?
This is what's called cognitive dissonance. Right? And this is the shit that we was talking about in the Season of Terror campaign when they was killing off children, the police and all of that. Like, this is cognitive dissonance. Like, either you God or you not. What the fuck? Either you bump with the folks or you don't. Like, what is it gonna be? Like, you have to make your mind up. And I said this is where leadership becomes so tricky in this particular day and age, because there's no vision. The people have no idea where they want to be led. And it's incumbent upon, quote unquote, maybe the leader's supposed to be the one to cause the vision in the lane, and you know what I'm saying, it takes people wherever they want to be led. But I mean, I'm just under that mind, like I said, as we transfer into a new era or new age or time, there's a lot of things that are going to be left behind. So we're looking at the transitioning of it take place in the mind. You know what I'm saying? People have lost their religion. They have lost this concept of being led anywhere or even going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's just different. And I don't think that it's going into the age of collectivism or grouping or collective. It's going to the age of individualism. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going virtual and two people can't be in one pod. This is my journey, nigga. I'm going to be linked up to Skynet. Surface dwelling might not even be possible on some surrogate shit. It's just me and my mind. It could be for 1,000 years. You don't know how long it's gonna be. I could exhaust everything in virtual. I could live 1,000 lives, my nigga, and
Right.
each one of them can be different. You know what I'm saying? This is no longer about the body; it's about the mind. So it's not going into collectivism. I ain't finna see you niggas no more. Being virtual. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
They got 1,000,000 games coming.
Mhm.
You can be whoever you want to be. You
Right.
can literally live their lives, literally.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. Like I said, where we're moving into, and the fact that these upcoming planetary conjunctions, they're powerful enough, to create a shift like that, where we totally don't recognize the same world this time next year.
Hmm.
Like totally different. You get what I'm saying? So I did want to speak on this, before we conclude, because it ain't got to be that long. These are definitely power pack episodes with a lot of information. You know what I'm saying? But let me do say this, because we were talking about being chosen and choosing yourself. We were talking about being intentional, and you was talking about the power of writing on paper, right? Which is an alchemical process, because the paper is a tree, so it's a living organism. You know what I'm saying? And that pencil, if you write with a pencil in particular, that pencil is lead, representing Saturn, representing time. You're etching into the paper, you're scarring nature. You know what I'm saying? You're getting the attention of the universe by writing on that paper.
Hmm.
So on Know the Ledge Radio, we used to do new moon invocations during this time. And the purpose of doing an invocation is to be intentional and purposeful at a time that's synonymous with you putting seeds in the ground, right? To create a almost what you might consider like a time loop. If time was like a conveyor belt, the new moon kind of picks up your intentions and it loops all the way to the full moon where it gives birth to them. So as a farmer, you will put a seed in the ground, and during the full moon, the seed will break the ground and be, on its way over this process to sprouting into a life. So with the invocations, we will write them on paper, preferably a white piece of paper with a pencil. If you don't have a pencil, you can use a black pen or blue pen, right? Or graphite, yes. Even better, if you have a graphite pen with parchment paper, that's the real. If you got cotton linen paper, yeah, that's the real work. You know what I'm saying? If you have those particular tools, but if you don't, a nice white piece of paper, even if it's loose leaf, will work. And your intentions should be something like, and they have to be very intentional. For example, right, my full name is Paul Eric Morland, so I would say, I, Paul Eric Morland, uh, easily, right? You, whatever this particular intention is, you're directing it, easily invoke, my business to do 50K this month. You got to be very specific. You know what I'm saying? Very detail oriented. But this is how you create your invocations. I, Paul Eric Mullen, quickly. I swiftly. I effortlessly. This is the language that you have to use. You're not. This is not wishing. You're making invocations. You are making proclamations on the universe for how you want things to go. You're taking affairs into your hands, and you're utilizing the lunar energy that is available right now for manifestation under this new moon. And this particular new moon is an Aries new moon, and Aries is all about the active principle, getting things done. It's the head. So you can start over now. It's the beginning of the astrological new year, right? This is the new year, new moon. So be very intentional. This is for you not to have any fear. It is for you. at this particular point, you're not only utilizing your imagination, right? Because you can make all sorts of you don't have to limit what it is that you want to invoke or bring into your universe, but you have to be steadfast. You have to be on it. So when you do invoke it, don't be concerned with necessarily how it's going to manifest. You know what I'm saying? Walk away, turn your back to it, forget about it, keep living life, and watch how the pieces fall in place. And then that's going to build your confidence. That's going to build your internal grace where you like, oh, this spiritual shit really works. And you're not gonna miss the next moon. You're gonna be waiting for the new next moon, the next new moon. You will be waiting and anticipating it so you can continue programming your reality and writing your script, right? Through this very chaotic version of the final chapter that we might be looking at until we start, what I'm saying, the next series. You dig what I'm saying? So I just want to leave y'all with that. Utilize this time to write your invocations, your 10 invocations, and be very intentional and be very specific. Because if you don't, you can ask for something and end up with it and end up twisted. You know what I'm saying? You be like, I want to be rich, and you end up almost like Harvey Weinstein. You wasn't specific. Like you got 30 million in the bank, but you got 23 years too. How you gonna spend it on commissary? So I want to be rich, enjoying my life under the sun with my wife and my children, chilling, like be intentional. Go all the way there, with your intentions. Don't leave nothing out.
Mm. Wow, that was great. What I want to do is I want all of us to focus on vertical growth. And the reason why I want us to focus on vertical growth is because we've been programmed to move horizontally. Our families have moved horizontally. The wealth gap in this country is based on vertical growth.
Speak on it.
The only thing that is moving vertical for many of us is pain. Okay, so if we can all close our eyes and visualize, right? Visualize what grace looks like to you, what this favor look like to you. Can you visualize if you are connected to your ancestors? Can you visualize them riding in a phantom? Can you visualize that same dude taking his neck out of a noose, right? And can you visualize him sliding in a 550? Can you visualize the pain that you imagine your bloodline went through? Can you visualize them winning? Can you visualize them fellowshipping? Right? If you can visualize them winning and visualize them fellowshipping, then you're entitled to win.
Mm-hmm.
You're entitled for these dubs, yo. You're entitled for your children to grow up in a safe environment and they can leave their bike outside. And when they come outside, the bike is still there. You can leave your door unlocked. When you hop in the car, you're always going to have safe passage. Okay? You don't pray to God for anything. You command. You are not here to serve God. God is here to serve you. Because without you, God has no purpose. All gods need purpose, right? You have it reversed, okay? So imagine a God that is honored and find pleasure in solving your problems, right? Imagine yourself every time you go in the room, you light the room up, yo. Imagine when you walk away from groups, people say fire ass shit about you. Imagine having endless amounts of paper. Imagine you fucking the man that you always wanted to fuck, sis. My dude, imagine you laid up with a woman that you want, not the ones that want you. Right? Imagine being a global citizen, when you travel to places, you don't got to stay in hotels. You got people around the world anticipating your arrival. Imagine that, right? Be entitled to that, right? Grace and favor in all aspects of your life, vertical movements in all aspects of your life, in your marriage, in your finances, in your health, in your concepts, in your ability, vertical growth, not horizontal growth, right? Imagine yourself having the concentration and the focus to be able to zero in on one thing at a time for large periods of time while the rest of the world is distracted. Imagine yourself completing what people take 30 years to do, you do it in 5.
Mm.
Imagine scaling and aging gracefully, yo. Imagine you thrusting yourself and walking into the future prepared. But first, you got to imagine that your bloodline was winning, and you got to take your story back and take your innocence back so your imagination could travel, right? Imagine yourself practicing the art of allowing, right? Imagine yourself knowing when it's time to go, right? Imagine, right? Grace and favor starts with imagine. All right. So that's just us right now changing our reticular activating system, right? So we can get some different results because now is the time, And what you don't want to do is come out of this corona season with jet lag because a lot of people are going to turn their brain off right now, right? Everybody, we had the first week and a half of it. We're locked down and it's a lot of playing going on. I understand it's a lot of games in play, but you don't. If you do the work right now, by the time this thing is over, the gap between you and everybody else is going to be the distance between here and the sun, right? So we want to always operate in grace and always operate in favor.
It's a fact.
You dig?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So what you gonna leave the people with?
Yo, man, you see the cash app, man. You know what I'm saying? Hit your boy. You know what I mean? Or let me. I'm gonna hop in the chat right now. Hopefully y'all been doing good, right? I'm gonna put my YouTube down. Follow me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's me right here. Yeah, yo, and look out for that Tough Talk Uncensored. You know what I'm saying? That's coming down the pipeline. You know what I mean? That's gonna be, me and Blue Pill's product, and it's Tough Talk Uncensored. So that's gonna be us raw. You know what I'm saying? Us in rare form. It's gonna get deep. You know what I mean? Hey, Blue, I've been thinking. You know what I'm saying? Philosophies. You know how Garvey had philosophies and opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, our philosophies and opinions, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, we're gonna build on that. But the Tough Talk Uncensored, you know what I'm saying? That's coming down the pipeline, and that's for the real supporters. Because
Right.
Let me say this too.
Let's get the right cash app. Let's make sure that this address is the right one.
That's my right cash app right there.
Any Briz?
That's me, yes, sir. You mentioned that. So I'm talking about grace and favor, right? And I seen TD Jakes go live the other day. He was live from his congregation, right? And
ID?
well, no, he was live streaming from his on Sunday, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So TD Jakes has the Potter's House, right? And his members are still giving, even in a time like this, right? So why am I saying that? Because for what he does, if that's your belief system, he's cold with that Bible. And then people go in their pocket and they tip that man. Now, you could tip the kid all day. I love to be tipped. It don't gotta be me. But what I'm saying is, for the grace and favor in this shit, in this community, for people younger than me, boys and girls, to want to do this, y'all gonna have to make it worth people's while, yo. There is no way that if it's 500 people in the chat, that Cash App that platform didn't make $500. That's $1 a person. Why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? Is because TD Jakes gets it, Creflo get it, Joel Osteen get it, Future get it, right? Now these are your researchers. These are the people that's putting it down for you in consciousness, right? If you better do it, because if not, the people that you love to hear, they're gonna find people that appreciate them, and you're never gonna get it back. You're never gonna get them back.
That's a fact.
You're never gonna get them back, yo. So you gotta be careful. So you don't know how long you got with your favorite YouTuber, your favorite scholar. You don't know. You don't know what's going on. So it's important that you take care of them, yo. If you can, you should. Hey, I heard Umar say, he told a girl, look, that was $10. You should give more, right? But I feel him. Yo, you can't say know your worth. You can't tell people to know their worth, and then when he tell you to put some more down, you mad. I thought it was know your worth.
Know your worth, right?
Right or nah? Is it know your worth or not? Or is it know your humbleness?
Like that ain't it.
Yeah, you're like, that ain't it.
That ain't it. I'm worth more than that. That ain't it. I did more. So yeah, the people have to definitely come to terms with knowing how to support the things that they love so much or that they need so much, or it feeds them so much, because you're not getting it so mainstream. And it's really an upscale battle at this particular point in time, because YouTube, they playing a whole different type of game. You know what I'm saying? They playing a whole different type of game. But we launched a new product today. I do want to inform the family about that. You know what I'm saying? We did, under this new moon, under this lunar moon, we got that silver out. We turn this light down so y'all can see this a little bit better. Yeah, that good silver. You know what I'm saying? 400 parts per million. So now we got the silver to go with the gold. That's goldwater.com. Get your silver bullet. It's promotional price right now is only $19.99 for 2 ounce with a spray bottle with a spritz of 400 parts per million. You can do the research. The some of the top silver that they got on the market is only 50 parts per million. We got 400 parts. This is concentrate, but you need that dosage to battle corona. So this is a deterrent to the coronavirus. You can protect yourself when you're going outside. You know what I'm saying? By protecting your entryways, your nose and your mouth, wherever you go around people, because people are asymptomatic. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what's going on out here. I don't know what's going on out here. I couldn't honestly tell you what the hell is going on. So if you have to be outside, protect yourself by any and all means. Okay, you could take an offensive measure, you could take a defensive measure. You could be proactive with this. All right. So I'll drop the site. Let's go water.com. Like I said, we have a very affordable promotional price at this time, so everybody can get this. It's more about you having it on deck than anything else. All right. And the sea moss is going to be available for shipping as well, sometime later this week. All right. And we've been caught up with our products and our shipping on Goldwater. We want to thank the people for their overwhelming support. And yes, continue to do the good work on yourself, good people. And I want to hear all of these breakthrough stories about their self-induced grace and favor during this particular time, how they found their grace and favor in the quarantine. I can't wait to hear these stories.
Oh man, if y'all find it written in quarantine, y'all gonna be legends forever, man, because you gotta understand, like, everyone's turning their brain off right now. So, but I say this too: fortune favors the bold, right? Grace and favor only comes to the aggressor. You have to be on the aggressive side of things. You have to be pushing. You know what I'm saying? Okay, light up there, nigga. Light up then.
Hey, you know,
But yeah, you wanna be on the side of the aggressor, right? Enjoy your family right now. Um, because let's just say things hypothetically did get worse for everybody, and this is your last period to spend with the people you fuck with. What if this was the eye of the hurricane?
hey, what if this is it?
What if this is it? Right? The what if this is the movies that we watched? What if this is it? You know what I'm saying? We've been writing about it in films and rapping about it, and we kind of been talking about the end of the world. What if, hypothetically, what if this was it? And what if this was your last second for, you know what I'm saying, for some peaceful shit before things get hectic?
That bonding period. You know,
Totally. You know what
my,
I'm saying?
she reminded me because we've been listening to some Bobby. What if this is the point in time where you have to get so much into your internal self that you actually, reach that black dot nirvana? What
Mm,
if the time where you have to be able to check out because you don't want to go through them pulling you out the house, putting no motherfucking chip in you. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? What if you got to teleport at this particular time? What if you got to tap on that latent ability? You dig what I'm saying? You're gonna have to dig deeper in whatever it is. This is not the time to be dodging, digging deeper. This is the time to dig deeper. This is the time that you have to demonstrate it so your children can demonstrate it for you. You know what I mean? This is the
mm,
time where you're gonna have to really, really grasp this idea of grace and favor and cover. Because as the head of household, you're gonna be responsible for covering yourself and your family no matter what happens. You know what I'm saying? And we do um yeah, we bid you farewell with that, but not without giving you the necessary tools to take things into your own hands with an iron grip. Be intentional. You know what I'm saying? Do not think that, don't leave this shit up to no random occurrence. Like I said, 2 months ago, you was trying to kick that man out of his house and make him homeless and put him on the sidewalk. Now he has the keys. Now he got you in the house. You feel me? You do not
mm.
want to leave your destiny and the remainder of this story up to a raging lunatic with a vendetta, right? Who politics first.
Mm. I
You know
love
what
it.
yeah, and with that,
Yeah,
my cat
go.
right down there, cash out $ blue pillar 44. We love you, the life family. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, may the winners win. You know what I'm saying? The marathon continues, victory lap, all that good shit.
Yo, oh, like I said, oh, and just on some grace and favor shit for all the ladies out there, if we get through the corona, your treat is I'm gonna let you brush my waves. Nah, fuck around. Yeah, it's all love, y'all. You know what I mean? It's all love. Until next time, man. So, Blue, we're gonna stay on this grace and favor shit, man, during this Corona season and milk this shit, man. Because when it's summertime, we need straight testimonial videos, or we need breakthrough videos. You know what I mean? What that look like, right? What that look like? We need to know this ministry is working for people. You know what I'm saying? Breakthroughs. That's what about. Bills and breakthroughs. You heard? Bread, bread builds and breakthroughs, yo. Let's do it.
And with that family,
My nigga, you already know, fam. All right, for
yeah,
sure.